What does a 64-year-old woman look like? What should a 64-year-old woman look like? Many of us might conjure up grandmotherly mental images. Perhaps a plump, gray-haired woman with spectacles on a rocking chair with her knitting in her lap. Hold on to that image for a moment, because in a few minutes we're going to turn it upside down. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin English, founder of The Silver Edge. Our mission at The Silver Edge is to inspire men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond to live their strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling lives. In today's episode, we talk with Michele Smith. Michele is a 64-year-old anti-aging body transformation coach with over 25 years of coaching experience. About 35 years ago, Michele was a model and an interior designer with a passion for fitness. In her 30s, she began weightlifting to extend her modeling career. After all, she had to compete with much younger women for modeling jobs, and she fell in love with weightlifting. She saw pictures of Rachel Micheles, the first Ms. Olympia in the 80s, and she wanted to look like her. In her mid-40s, she was talked into doing her first bodybuilding show, and at age 52, she went on to become the oldest figure competitor in the INBBF to earn her professional status. Join us this week as Michele shares her thoughts on healthy, holistic aging. We discuss the importance of strength training as we age, how she coaches her clients to eat and recover, and why self-care is critical for showing up as the best version of yourself. Oh, and remember that mental image of the 64-year-old woman I asked you to hang on to? When you get a chance, make sure you head over to Michele's Instagram account and check her out. I'll drop a link in the show notes. And now, on to today's show. Hello, my guest this week is Michele Smith. Michele is a 64-year-old anti-aging body transformation coach with over 25 years of coaching experience. In 2009, at the age of 52, Michele became the oldest figure competitor in the INBBF to earn professional status. Today, Michele is a certified private clinic owner of the Permanent Weight Loss Solution, a certified Charles Poliquin Biosignature practitioner, as well as a certified holistic health and nutrition coach. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to have you on. I certainly want to talk to you about your practice today and your thoughts on healthy aging. But why don't we back up a bit and start at the beginning? Tell us what you were like as a child. Were you a active girl?
I was very active as a child. I was always playing sports. I was super skinny. I always wanted to look better because I come from the Dominican Republic, and most Latin women, they are curvy. And because I was a little kid running around, I was always thin, and it made me feel a little bit subconscious about that. So, but I still enjoy anything sports to this day.
And now, did you have the opportunity to play sports as a girl, or was it mostly just kind of unstructured play?
No, I was playing volleyball. I played ping pong. I played anything that I could get, softball, anything that I could get my hands on. I was like a tomboy.
Like a tomboy. Okay. Yeah. And now, were these school sports? Were you playing these as part of a school?
Yeah, in school, yes.
And what did that last through, say, high school? I mean, how long did you stay active in school sports?
Actually, no. When I went to high school, I stopped practicing sports. I also got married very young. So I was a mother and I had to take care of my child. But it was always in my heart to play a lot of sports or dancing for that matter. I love to dance. So anything that keeps me active, I liked and I loved. So yeah, that's what I did when I was in high school.
So it sounded like you were very active as a young person. Then you found that love for movement. Yes. And to your point, you had several motivations there. One was to look better, but probably to feel better as well, right? Yes. Sounds like you enjoyed what you were doing. Then a young mom, right? So talk to us a little bit about that. What happened to all of that activity then as a young mother? Did you just kind of shelf that for a while, or when did the activity come back into your life?
Well, the only activity that I was doing at that point was dancing. I didn't do anything else. I was pretty much taking care of her. And, but it was always in my heart to do something. I just, I think I tried ice skating at one point and I didn't like it because it's too cold. I just tried little things around that time, but it didn't really pan out until later on.
Okay, and so let's talk about that. Now, were you always did you always look in shape? I mean, did you have one of those stories where, some of the guests on our show have kind of had that experience where maybe they were active early in life and then along came kids, marriage, maybe career, some other things, and health and wellness kind of took a back seat and their health declined or they got out of shape. Did that ever happen for you, or were you pretty much staying active enough that you were always in shape and looking good?
No, what happened was that I got involved in different career choices. I became an interior designer. I went to school for interior designs, and there was no activity there, obviously. But I realized that my heart was on doing activities. So I went back to school and became a personal trainer as well as learn about nutrition. So I changed my career for that. And that's when I started training, especially with weights. I was about 30 years old.
Okay, so that's interesting. So at 30 years old, you took up a career in interior design, but your heart, it sounds like maybe your heart wasn't in it. Your heart really was in movement and exercise, activity, etc. So you went back to school, got some training in personal training, I'm imagining,
Yes.
and nutrition, etc. We'll dig into some of
And
that in a
nutrition
minute.
certifications as well.
I'm sorry, say that again.
And nutrition certifications.
Nutrition certifications as well. Yeah, because the two of those are certainly going to go hand in hand, right?
Absolutely.
Activity and nutrition. So, and you mentioned something interesting there. You said when you were about 30, that's when you got introduced to weights. So before that, you'd done some dancing, some volleyball, some other things, but really hadn't had any experience with, say, a barbell or dumbbells, right? Talk to us about your introduction to weights, to actually weightlifting.
Well, what happened around that time is that I was also a model, and I was pretty old for a model. So I needed to do something to keep myself in shape, to extend my career. I mean, it wasn't a career, it was pretty much my breadwinner, around that time. So I started working out in order to get myself in shape and look better and be able to model for another few years. And that's what led me to realize how much I love that, because you're able to change your body in any way you can. So at that point, I became very passionate about it.
Okay, and how did you get introduced to because let's face it, I'm thinking, I'm not sure what year this was, but probably because even today there's kind of a stigma around barbells in women, right?
Yes.
And that's changing, it's changing rapidly.
Yes.
But probably back then, maybe not so much. I mean, if you'd have walked into a gym, it would be unusual to see a woman doing, saying, squats or deadlifts with a barbell, right? Um,
Absolutely.
how did you get introduced to that?
Well, I knew that I had to work out in order for me to get in better shape. I just knew. And I also became fascinated with Rachel McLish. I don't know if you remember her. She was the bodybuilder on the 1980s. She was the only person that we admire her muscles, although she was around my size for bodybuilding. That was huge, back in the 80s. So I was determined to look like her pretty much. I pretty much didn't care how much my modeling career was going to last. I just wanted to look like that. So that's what I focused on from there on.
Okay, so you found a female bodybuilder, Rachel, what was her last name?
McLeish.
McLish. And you just kind of became obsessed with that. You said, I
Yeah.
want to look like that. And of course, the route to that was through barbells, dumbbells,
Yes.
etc. Right? Now, did you have a coach in those early days?
Well, I started by myself. I
Okay.
had no idea what I was doing.
Mhm.
Back then, we didn't have the internet. So I was buying lots of magazines
Yeah.
and imitating whatever they were doing on the magazines, because I had no idea really. And then I hired a coach. Then I hired another coach. And then one coach that I had said, "You should be competing." And I said, "I have no interest in doing that." He said, "You're going to win." So to make the long story short, I started training for that. And that was in 2001.
Okay. So I know because we read at in the intro that you're going to go on and become the oldest figure competitor in the
Right.
INBBF. I guess before we go there, let's kind of maybe define a couple things. Not all my listeners are going to know what that means. What is a figure competitor, and what is the INBBF?
Okay. The INBBF is an organization where you are tested for drug free. You're not supposed to do drugs for any of these competitions. They test you, especially if you win a pro card. So I did win my pro card when I was 52 years old. But however, it is a very small organization and you don't go very far. So I decided to move into the NPC. You do drugs only if you want to. That doesn't mean that everybody's doing it. But I just wanted to challenge myself. And that's how I moved. I started competing there as well.
Okay. So, and we said that you're a figure competitor.
Oh,
What
yes.
does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the figure competitor is like, in bodybuilding, there is a bodybuilder, there is a physique, there is a figure, and there is a bikini. Now there is a wellness. The most muscular one is the bodybuilder. Then the physique, then the figure, which is what I did, is more feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a little bit of muscle, although nowadays they have a lot more muscle mass. And the bikini, it has the least of muscles.
Right.
And then the wellness is bigger legs and bigger glutes. Very similar to figure, but different posing.
Gotcha. Maybe slightly different proportion you're looking for there. Okay. And so people might imagine if they are looking on the front cover of, say, Shape magazine, those women are likely to have the kind of bodies of a figure competitor, perhaps. Is that fair? Or
no, more like a
little bigger maybe than that.
Like a bikini competitor.
That's more like bikini. Okay. Fair enough. Gotcha. Okay. So you got introduced into training because you wanted to extend your modeling career, and then you fell in love with weight training. You fell in love with bodybuilding. You obviously had success. You became a professional, right? A professional bodybuilder. Because like you said, you get a
professional
pro card, right?
Yeah.
And in order to get a pro card, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you have to win a national show. Is that right?
Yeah, you have to, because they have different categories. When you enter a show, it's by height, not by weight. So you get A, B, C, D, A, B, the shortest. So you have to win the group first, and then you have to win the overall.
Gotcha.
For all the different categories, and then you get a pro card.
And now, how does that work with age? Would you be necessarily, in your 50s competing with 20-year-old women, or how does that work?
Well, when I was competing at the time, there was only masters and open. Master was 40 years or 45 years and older. So I did both, and I was in my 50s, and I did pretty well. But nowadays, they have 40s, 50s, 60s even.
Yeah, that's great. So there's a lot of categories and more opportunities, right?
More opportunities for everyone.
To be sure. Yeah, so that's very impressive. You were winning these shows at a time when, you would be going against much younger competitors.
Much younger, yes.
And that's going to lead into kind of what you're doing today, right? I mean, your message seems to be around anti-aging and body transformation. And specifically is it older men and women, or mainly older women that you're working with?
It's both men and women. And the reason why I got into this niche is because I pretty much experienced it myself. I had to define what I was going to do, how I was going to train myself, the nutrition and all different things in order to, not age so fast. And one of the things, the most important thing is nutrition, but also to get bioidentical hormone therapy. That's the hormone therapy that we get, but it's not synthetic. It's made in the pharmacy rather than the synthetic one that they were giving before. So it's a cream that you put on every single day. So it keeps your hormones more balanced, and you look better and you feel better. Most importantly, you feel much better. You have more energy.
Yeah, I did want to talk a little bit about that, because I'm not very familiar with the, I know you're certified in the Charles Poliquin Biosignature as a practitioner there. So when a woman comes to you in that practice, are you testing and finding baselines, or what determines the course of treatment, or the course of how are you applying those hormones to this person? I mean, what makes you determine what's appropriate for what people?
Well, in addition, the initial consultation that I give these individuals, if I know they are going under perimenopause, especially for women, is anywhere between 37 and 50. You could be going through perimenopause. And men also go through something similar. In fact, men go through andropause. That's when they hit the menopause for women. So if I know they're going on around that time, so I send them to a doctor to get their hormones checked, because I cannot prescribe that. It has to be prescribed by a doctor. So between the prescription from the doctors and my nutrition and training, that's where you get the whole thing working.
I got you. So, and you're taking this holistic approach, right? So we're going to talk about exercise, we're going to talk about nutrition, and we're going to talk about hormone profiles, which, yeah, I think anybody in that 50 and over age bracket certainly can relate to. So let's kind of tease apart some of that a little bit. So somebody might come to you, let's just say a perimenopausal woman, and I don't know, she could have what she's feeling kind of blah, not really, not as much energy, etc. She might have these complaints. You're going to get her, you're going to have her hormones tested, you're going to get that back, you're going to look at her nutrition levels. So let's start maybe with the nutrition piece. I believe is it a precision nutrition coach? Is that where you got your?
Well, I have other certifications as well, but I learned that especially for anti-aging, it's best to prescribe nutrition with whole foods, no process. Because when you eat processed food, it changes your whole mechanism and hormones in your system. So that's number one for me, which makes it a little bit more complex for people because you have to make your own food. Oftentimes, I mean, it's healthy, but some people don't want to do it. However, that's the base because the bioidentical hormone by itself will not change that. You have to combine it with the nutrition and as well as strength training, because as you age, you lose muscle mass. And that's the one thing that you have to sustain. You have to keep those muscle mass to look younger and to have more energy and to have a much better quality of life as you get older.
Yeah, so you said a lot of good things there. I mean, to keep the muscle mass, to look better, and to feel better. So on the nutrition, you said your number one philosophy, I think, is eating whole foods, right? And these are non-processed foods. They are foods with or with only one ingredient, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people maybe instinctually know that, or maybe not so much. But I think what happens is, yeah, it's maybe it's not so evident. But I think to your point, people don't do that as much because they perceive it as being more time consuming, or maybe they don't know how to prepare these foods. So how do you start with people who come to you with really crappy diets, right? They're eating a lot of processed foods, maybe drinking sodas and other things. How do you start them on this journey towards a more whole foods based nutrition program?
Well, the first thing I do, I ask them to do a food log for 3 days. 2 of those days has to be a weekend. And the reason for that is because sometimes we change our diets over the weekend.
Yeah.
So that way I know exactly what their diet is. I don't ask them to diet, just whatever they eat on a regular basis. So according to what they give me, I'm going to give them a diet to start with. Meaning, if I get a client, for instance, who is drinking a lot of sodas and eats pizza and all processed food, I cannot give them all whole foods because it's going to pass out or something. Right. I'm not kidding. They go through a 2-week period of depression if you change it that drastically. So because you're very attached to your food, it's very emotional also. So maybe I'll give them some Ezekiel bread, and some eggs. And then every week I just introduce new things until they are well on board with it. But you cannot do it all like that, like out of the gates. It wouldn't work.
Right. Okay. So well said there. You're looking at making small changes over time, right? And these clients are going to learn to incorporate these changes into their lifestyle, right? It's not like you're putting them on a diet. To your point, if you take somebody who's eating a lot of pizza and drinking a lot of sodas and you just put them all on whole foods, they probably aren't going to do very well on that.
No, they're not.
It's not going to last, right? They're not going to stick to that long term.
Another important point is that they have to change their taste bud. Because you're very attracted to, whether it's pizza and soda, you're very attracted to that taste. Right. So if you want to get rid of those habits, you have to get new taste. So instead of getting rid of the soda for like overnight, I take it off like slowly, and then replace that with something else, like maybe flavor water, until they feel comfortable with it. Because once you fall in love with the whole food and the cleaner food, you're not going to go back.
Right.
But you have to stick to the other side for a while before that happens.
And I think a lot of people also miss that small progress is still progress, right? We don't need to change everything in a day or in a week or even in a month or a year for that matter. For somebody who's got a really messed up diet, it may take a while for them to get, for some of these new eating habits to really take root in their life. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, let's say you've got this client, they came to you, they had a really bad diet. You've got them pretty much moved into a whole foods diet. Now, is your next step, or at some point, are you going to talk to your clients about macros and macro splits and tracking calories, or are we going to kind of stay away from that and stick more with, hey, if you just cover these basics, you're going to be fine? What are your thoughts there?
No, I do give them macros.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because sometimes we eat certain amount of calories in one day, and then the following day is completely off. And one of the important things of this is to be consistent. So if you are about to consume 2,500 calories, you can't consume 500 one day, 2,500 another day, and go back and forth, because then your body is not using it consistently. So I give them macros. I give them how much fat, how much carbs, and how much protein, how much water, and a cheat meal once a week.
Once a week, anything they want, right?
Anything they want for one meal.
Gotcha.
Not the whole day.
Not the whole day, not a cheat day, a cheat meal. Okay, fair enough. So do you have a philosophy on partitioning your macros, the proteins and the carbs and the fat? Are you prioritizing one over the other, or is it really individual?
Well, it's individual, but the most important one is the protein, because some people are carb intolerant, and I could only give them so much carbs. Others can tolerate much more. The fat is also fluctuated according to how much fat they have to lose, because fat burns fat. Yeah. And also carbohydrates burns fat. People think getting rid of all the carbs is going to help you lose weight. It could temporarily, but then you're going to hit a wall, because your organs, everything works with carbs.
Sure. And carbs are what's going to fuel intense exercise, and maybe a good segue there. So somebody comes to you, and now we're going to look at them holistically. So we're going to work on their diet. We're going to get them on some whole foods. We're going to get them on a set number of macros or calories and a macro split that's appropriate for them. We're going to teach them about consistency over the long haul. Along with that, I imagine you're going to work with them on movement. So this same person comes to you, and let's just say maybe they were active at some point in their life, but they're not now, right? They're overweight. They have some of the metabolic diseases that kind of go along with being over 50 and being inactive and not eating well. Where do you start that person from now I'm putting your personal trainer hat on, where do you start that person on their exercise program?
I try to start them with weights from the beginning. Unless they've never used weights before, then I will have them do some cardio just to get their body movement, and maybe do weight training every other day for Monday through Friday, I should say, for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to build muscles. Some people don't think that's necessary, because they think they don't like muscles, but muscles are very important to stay young and healthy.
Let's elaborate on that just a little bit, because you alluded to that earlier as well. But you said that muscles are important to stay young and healthy. And I wholeheartedly agree with you, obviously, on that. Why? Why should, let's say, a woman who's maybe a little overweight and inactive in her 60s, why should she care about adding muscle?
Because muscles burn fat. And that's what you want. Most people think it's about just losing weight. It's not about losing weight, because you could lose 50 pounds and look horrible if you lose all the muscles. You're going to look bad. But if you start losing body fat and retain your muscles, you're going to look youthful and beautiful. And your energy is going to be so much better.
And you're going to be more capable, more confident, right?
Yes.
There's a lot that goes into increasing muscle, especially in an aging population. I mean, it does wonders, because to your point, we don't want to lose weight. We want to lose body fat, right? Along with that,
also your quality of life is much better, because you're able to, carry any packages if you want to. You don't have to have people doing everything for you. You feel more independent.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And I think it was, it was Dr. Gabriel Lyon who said that the problem with Americans isn't so much that we're overly fat as that we are under muscled. And I thought that was an interesting observation, right? Because we have an obesity epidemic. That's just, there's no denying that. But we also have a problem with being undermuscled. And I think that that's in the aging population isn't looked at or thought about maybe as much as some of the other things that go along with unhealthy aging.
Well, I think it's going to get even worse. And the reason for that is because there are all these new exercises and it's all about cardio. You have, what is that? Peloton. You have Soul Cycle, things to make it easier for you to do it at home. But all you're doing is just burning calories, and more calories, and then burning your muscles. You have nothing else, especially if you're older. You already have loose skin. So your skin is going to look even looser. It's going to look worse. So instead of going that direction, which some people, it's difficult for them to comprehend, you have to build muscles. You have to do it slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't want to lose 30 pounds in a month. Some people would like that.
Right. Yeah. It's not a healthy rate of weight loss.
It's not going to look good.
Nope.
In addition to, it's not going to be healthy anyway. So doing it slowly and just getting yourself stronger and burning the body fat is the best way to do it.
And I think that's such a key point. And I'm afraid that a lot of folks, especially older folks, when they go to a checkup, their doctor says something very vague, like you should eat better and exercise more. And a lot of people, when they say, well, what do you mean? The doctor's going to say something along the line, well, you should, what do you like to do? You should take walks, or you should go for a bike ride. Well, you certainly should take walks, and you absolutely should ride your bike. Absolutely. They're wonderful things. Doctors rarely say, you should really work on increasing muscle mass and you need to do a resistance training program. There's a few of them, but they're few and far between. And something is lost between that physician, that well-meaning physician, and that older person actually gaining strength and, to your point, that capability to bend over to pick up that package and put it in the overhead cupboard by themselves, or to play with their grandchildren, to do sports and other things that they love to do later into life. So yeah, I think that that's lost on a lot of the older generation, that gaining strength is critical, right?
It's critical. And also, most physicians are not trained in nutrition.
Nope. That's
so they pretty much said, eat healthy.
What does that
mean to anybody?
Yeah.
Or cut your carbs. Not a good idea. Cut your pasta and bread, your simple carbs. Yes, but not your complex carbs.
Right.
So everybody gets confused. My doctor told me to do this, and it's crazy.
Yeah, nobody's getting sick from eating too many sweet potatoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so when we talk about building strength for older people, let's say you have somebody in their late 60s come to you, or in their 70s. Is it too late for that person to work on building muscle?
Never.
Yeah. Say that again. Is it too late? Never too late to start, right? So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
I have clients who started with me in their late 60s, and they built a tremendous amount of muscle. It was slowly through the years, but they did. They're stronger. Even their doctors were very impressed with that. It's never too late.
Never too late to start, right?
Never.
I want to make sure that, anybody out there listening understands that it's never too late for yourself, for your loved ones, your parents. And we are seeing more and more, because I think most of us, when we think about the archetype of the aging, especially here in the US or in the Western world, the aging person, what you don't think about is somebody strong, capable, and vibrant, right?
Never.
You think about somebody who's probably overweight and maybe in a wheelchair or with a walker or in a home, or you're not thinking about strong and capable. But more and more, there's folks like you and other people out there that are really talking about and healthy aging and are shining examples of that. And so certainly we want to try and change that perception of what healthy aging really could be and should be, for that matter, right?
Yes, not only that, but also change people's mindset about that aging is not a disease. It's not a disease. It's avoidable. You are going to get older no matter what, but you could still look youthful and feel youthful. It's not a disease that you cannot control. You can't do it. It just takes some work.
Yeah, we're all going to age, but we also all have some say in how we age, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are in control of your own body.
You are certainly in control of your own body. Yeah, that's well said. And that's back to your point. That's a holistic thing, though, and it takes a lot of work, because like we said, we're gonna do some changes on your diet. We're gonna do some changes in your potentially in your hormones. We're certainly going to work on building lean body mass. So I can't remember who said it. Somebody likened it to a 401k. It's your physical health 401k. You have to deposit in it several times a week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every
It's
day.
investment in your future self. Well worthwhile.
And in case you have listeners who are into yoga, yoga is great. It's especially great for your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you stretch and you feel wonderful, but it's not to build muscles.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there's a lot of things that older people are guided towards. Yoga might be one of them, and yoga is a great thing, right? We talked about riding your bike and walking, jogging, etc. Things that these are all wonderful things, but they're not particularly anabolic. They're not muscle building things.
Yeah, they're not going to help you in the long run in terms of building muscle and staying youthful.
Yeah, interesting.
Also, your testosterone level, your testosterone level increases when you lift weights.
Right.
And everybody wants that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Men and women.
Great point. Yep. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, because you had mentioned that, older people are often given advice like go for a walk or, practice yoga, something like that. Nothing wrong with that. But older people are also told specifically, don't deadlift, don't squat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be, and it drives, I can see from the expression on your face, drives you nuts as well. Every time I hear that, I just cringe inside. These are well-meaning people, right? They're saying, oh, well, deadlifts are bad for your back or squats are bad for your knees. And I'd like to, my feelings there is, hey, look, if you've got bad knees, stronger knees would be preferable to bad knees. A stronger back would be preferable to a weaker back, right? And when performed properly, these are critical movements. To say you shouldn't squat means you shouldn't sit down and get back up. To say you shouldn't means you shouldn't bend over and pick something up. I mean, what are your thoughts on that advice that you're too old to do some of these very, very human movements?
Well, first of all, if you have back issues, you have to be careful how you perform those exercises. That's very important. But to tell someone that, deadlifts or squats going to hurt your back is so wrong. I have one client who will not do deadlifts because his doctors say you should never do deadlifts. And he's in his 70s and he's very strong and he does anything else, he will not do them. That is very wrong. If you have proper form, you will get better and you will get stronger. It's not going to hurt you.
Right. And there's a lot of variations of something like a squat or a deadlift that we can put in place for somebody, to your point, that maybe has got some kind of pre-existing injuries or some problems, etc. We can work around that and still get that very human hip hinge movement worked in and stronger, right?
Even with squats, you don't have to have a bar on your back.
Right. Yeah.
Do a squat. You could do it with dumbbells. You could do it with a cable. You could do it with no weights. And it's going to help you no matter how you do them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your legs is the stronger muscle of your body. So most people don't want to work their legs. I never understood that. I work legs 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what carries you.
Right. That's exactly right. That is what carries you. Yeah, absolutely. It's what gets you up and down from your seated position every day. All right. Well, I thank you for all your thoughts there on training, and 100% tracking with you that certainly strength training is critical, especially as we age. And there's so many reasons why. And unfortunately, it just seems to be something that's overlooked or misunderstood, I think is a fair way of saying it for older folks. And so hopefully we get more voices like yours out there and get the word out. I wanted to switch gears for a minute and talk to you about your thoughts on recovery. So now we've got your client in and we're working on their nutrition. That's getting better. We're working on their hormonal profile. That's getting better. They're bought into the reasoning of increasing strength, and that's getting better. Now, as they're starting to put in all of this work, what are your thoughts on recovery for this aging athlete?
Well, recovery is very, very important because as we age, the recovery process slows down. So if I used to be able to do legs today and I'll be a little sore tomorrow and I was fine, it takes me 3 days to recover from legs. So recovery is very important. So if you do body work, massage, stretching, it's going to help you recover even better. but it's extremely important. You cannot do without the other.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't understand that we're not really building muscle when we're actively lifting those weights, right? We're tearing them down, but we're going to recover them as we're resting from that, right?
Recovering and eating the food that that's when you build them,
right?
Not when you're working out. Yes.
Yeah. So I think probably the largest piece of that recovery equation is going to be your nutrition, right?
Absolutely.
And what are your thoughts on sleep?
Oh, that's
specifically for recovery
too. Some people might need just 5 hours. Some people need 8. I used to be the type of person that only need 5. I need 8 now. So because I'm older, I need more recovery and I feel better. And I make sure that I get those 8 hours sleep because I'm not going to function properly the following day. So,
yeah. And I think that's missed by a lot of people. Just the vital importance of sleep and what that does for you physically, mentally, emotionally, just everybody knows that feeling of waking up and being groggy and not ready to face the day versus, a good night's sleep and waking up and feeling like you're ready to kind of take on the day. So we need to emphasize proper recovery, especially as we're aging. To your point, younger people, they don't need to worry about that so much. You can get in
it's important
every day if you want. You're just going to recover automatically. It has to be something that we think through and probably to your point as a coach that you're actually programming into
the programs,
every week and every month, et cetera, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you use the foam roller after you train, it helps you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Break down all those tissues that you worked on that day, and it helps you recover better.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. So let's talk a little bit now. We've got our aging athletes in, they're eating better, they're recovering good from their workouts that you're giving them. How do you keep them motivated? Because we had mentioned that, if we consider your long-term health as like an investment account that you have to make a deposit in weekly, multiple times a week, how do you keep this person motivated over the long haul? Because this isn't something that we're going to do for a month or for 3 months or for a year, but this is something we want to incorporate into our lifestyle. How are we keeping this person motivated for the long haul?
Well, unfortunately, you cannot just get motivation. You have to make yourself do it. And once you start moving, you get motivated. It's just that simple. If you decide to stay in bed one morning and not go, I'm not motivated today, that's it, you kill the day. But if you push yourself to get out of bed, make it to the gym, and even if you do a workout that is 80% rather than 100%, that was your motivation because you want to look better, don't you? It's like a job, If you want to do better in your job, your career, you want to research more, learn more things. It's the same thing. This is your body, and people don't take care of their bodies as much as they should, not knowing that this is pretty much your temple. This should be the number one thing, your body.
Oh, 100%. And I'm so glad you brought up a couple of great things there. First of all, you said you have to make your motivation. I think that's lost on a lot of people. They just assume, people will often say, well, God, how do you stay so motivated? Guess what? I make it. I make myself be motivated sometimes because I'm not always motivated. It's great. There's days when I'm ready to charge at whatever, the gym, my nutrition, I'm on point, feeling great, and I am motivated.
But there are other days.
That's not every day. Yeah.
Like today,
there's other days when I'm really dragging. I don't want, I'd much rather sit on.
Want to do it. Like today, it's raining here in New York. And I don't know if you're in New York, but it's raining and it's chilly and I didn't feel like getting up, going to work out. I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Once I got there, I got myself moving and I forgot about it that I wasn't motivated this morning.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's what happens, right? You get to your point, you get in and you do that 80% instead of 100% in the gym, but you leave there. Now all of a sudden I've got some endorphins going. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And I because I didn't skip the gym, I've got that little boost that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And it kind of feeds into that lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So second thing, so you talked about, you got to make your motivation. Love that. You also mentioned self-care in that last response. And I wanted to pick that apart a little bit. You had mentioned how important self-care is, that your body is your temple and you've only got one, right? And I think what's lost on a lot of people is, the number one reason people aren't taking care of themselves is they'll say, I don't have enough time. and what they're, our audience can't see, but you're shaking your head. And I'm with you. And what they're really saying when they say that is, I'm not prioritizing my self-care right now. And people miss that when they don't put themselves first in that sense, that they're not showing up as the best version of themselves for others, right? So whether you're, whether it's your career or your kids or some other thing that's the main focus of your life, if you're not putting yourself first in that self-care sense, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your loved ones and the people around you. Is that a fair way of saying that?
Well, there is a stigma that people believe if you don't take care of others first, you're selfish.
Right. Yep.
If you take care of yourself, you're being selfish. I shouldn't do that. That's not true. You take care of yourself first, and then you take care of others after that. And you do a better job if you do it that way, rather than taking care of somebody else first before you burn down. You're burning down. You have nothing else left, and you're taking care of other people. No, I always put myself first, no matter what. And then I could do whatever with other people, help them however they need to be helped.
That's a great point. And you're right. There is a stigma with saying something, making that bold statement, I put myself first. And I agree with you. I do the same. But I feel like that makes me a better person when I'm serving my family, when I'm serving my career, when I'm serving my friends, etc. I show up as the best version of myself, as opposed to your point, being burnt out and ragged and run kind of crazy, trying to just, complete all my tasks and being busy all the time. And my health deteriorates, my emotional state deteriorates, and I'm not the best person then at that point around my family, around my coworkers, etc.
By the way, I also mean taking care of yourself, like washing your hair. And I know that sounds simple, but most people just don't care of themselves. They just put on whatever dirty clothes they have. If you make the best representation of yourself, people will accept you better or react to you better and buy your products better, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's very timely for listeners listening to this in the future. We're recording this in December of 2020. So hopefully we're somewhere near the end of this COVID craziness. But I think to your point, there are a lot of people whose weekly laundry is sweatpants and pajamas, right?
They don't take care of themselves at all. That's so wrong. I mean, it makes you feel better when you are presentable. It makes you feel much better to conquer the world. At least to me, it is. So I just don't understand why people do that.
Right. No, and it's an easy thing to fall into, right? I mean, there's a lot of this particular time in our history, there's just a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of tension. People cope with that in different ways. And certainly, I think you and I would agree the best way to deal with that is with a healthy lifestyle, right? But not everybody is. And those are good points, right? I think that doing small things like just getting dressed and like you said, being the best, most presentable version of yourself is going to make you feel better, come across better. Alrighty. So what is next for you? You've obviously accomplished a lot. I know you have a thriving practice, but what's on the horizon for you? What does 2021 look like for you?
Well, because things have changed since COVID. I mean, really, everything has changed. I'm pretty much reinventing myself to do most of my programs online, which I did some before, but the majority of my clients were one-on-one here in New York, but you can't do that anymore. I mean, they don't even allow you to train people unless you go to like a big corporate gym like Equinox. They have trainers, but I go to Equinox to train myself and it's only like 5 people there because nobody wants to go. Everybody's scared. So you could do some Zoom, but I'm trying to more selling my services online. I could sell my programs of nutrition as well as my training programs that they could do it on their own. And then if they need to do it on Zoom or FaceTime, that's fine too. But it has changed. Things are not going to be the same anymore, I don't think.
No, I think you're exactly right. Things certainly have changed and things won't be the same going forward. And to your point, it's never too late to start over or start again, right? Or to get started.
Too late.
And people in the health industry, certainly personal trainers, nutritionists, all these people that may have made their livelihood in person and love connecting one-on-one are evolving, changing, and
Yes.
certainly as consumers of those products, right? If you were something, a client, a one-on-one client, now you're probably transitioning to more of an online type
Yes.
thing. So it is a new world. And so you've got programs, people can work with you. And I suppose that opens up a whole new, more opportunity, right? As opposed to being in Metro New York. Now I'm in North Carolina and it doesn't really matter. We can work together, right? Or people from other countries, et cetera. So you're going to be continuing to transition into more online type consulting work. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. Great.
And it's never too late to reinvent yourself, by the way.
That's right. No, exactly. That's what we're.
50. Are you kidding me? I'm 64.
Yeah. We were joking around at the beginning of the podcast. We've got a podcast here for people over 50. And the first thing we have to do is overcome the technology of getting connected like this, right? Yeah. But we can do it.
Which I'm not afraid of.
Yeah. So with that, as we're wrapping up, why don't you talk a little bit about your practice, what you do, what your typical clients look like, and then how you would like people to connect with you.
My typical client is men and women, but they're usually executives, career people who wants to look better, and they do whatever it takes to do the work and feel better and look better. That's my client. They don't care about money, paying how much it is, because it's very important for them to show up as the best as they are. 100% of my clients are like that. Maybe I'll have one or two who is not that important for them to be the best for themselves, but that's pretty much my clientele.
Okay, so it sounds like that folks out there listening, if they've kind of fit that profile, if they're motivated, they're serious and dedicated, and they're ready to make some changes, then that they would be a good match for you. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then how can people connect with you? How can people learn more about you or get in touch with you?
My website is foreverfitwithmichele.com. My Instagram account is forever fit with Michele, forever fit with Michele, one dot after each word. That's my Instagram account, and those are the most important. I also have Facebook, Michele Smith, Antiaging Specialist, and those are my number one platforms.
Gotcha. And I can drop that into the show notes so anybody listening could go there and just click through and find you that way and connect with you there. Okay, great. Well, Michele, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing all your wisdom with us. You're a fantastic ambassador for anti-aging and healthy aging, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Well, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends and please consider subscribing and giving us a 5-star review. All the show notes and much more are available at our website at silver-edge.com. That's silver-edge.com. So until next time, stay strong.